sit over. I got you. I got you. Sure, I'm gonna put this mic right here. Right? Right? Hmm?
Just email you the descriptions for the ET photos for the ME. I'll have to type on it real quick, but they're kind of. And I'll type that in.
Okay, all right, let's begin. State of Florida versus Shannon McCarthy. We're here on the defendant's motion to dismiss based on Florida's statutory immunity for those who act in self-defense. I reviewed the motion, and state ready to proceed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense?
Yes, Judge.
All right, Ms. McCarthy is present before the court. Mr. O'Connor, do you have any witnesses that are in the courtroom?
I don't have any witnesses that are currently in the courtroom. I have some that are outside. I think I have 5 total today.
Okay.
But I'm ready to call.
I've set aside 2 hours for this hearing, however, we can extend it an additional hour if we need to.
I think hopefully we'll do 2 hours, but we might need to extend a little. So.
Okay, well, I've got up to 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Fletcher, do you have anything you want to add?
No, Judge, I believe the burden on the state.
All right, very well. My understanding is the state stipulates that the motion is set forth a prima facie case of self-defense, so the burden shifts to the states to disprove or to more accurately to prove that she's not entitled to self-defense immunity. By clear and convincing evidence, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to call your first witness.
Sure. Say we call Michaela Shepard.
Raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Connor, you can inquire.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Shepard, thank you for being here today. Can you please introduce yourself to the court and spell your name for the court reporter?
My name is Michaela Shepard, spelled Mikayla. Do you want me to spell my last?
Just one time, sure.
Okay. Sheppard.
And how old are you, ma'am?
45.
Are you currently employed?
Yes, I work with my father.
Okay.
He owns his own business.
All right. And did you know anyone named Heather Shepard?
Yes, she was my mother.
And how long did you know her for?
24 years she was alive.
All right. And I want to direct your attention to the end of June 2023. Do you have a good memory of that time?
Fairly, yeah.
All right. And I know this is difficult, so if anytime you need to take a break, just let me know. Do you remember the last time you saw your mother? What day that was?
In person, I last saw her June 28th. It was Wednesday.
And do you know where you saw her?
Yes, she came to my apartment that I shared with my grandparents.
And when you saw her that day, did she have any health issues that you could see or anything like that?
She showed us that she had been pooping blood, so she asked us to take her to the hospital. We agreed, but she said she had to go to Shannon's to do something, and she called when she was ready. She never called.
Can you speak up just a tiny bit?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Do I need to repeat?
No.
You said Shannon. Do you see anyone named Shannon in the courtroom today, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
I take that back. You said she reported that she had blood in her stool and she wanted you to take her to the hospital?
Well, my dad to take her to the
Your
hospital.
dad, okay. And then what happened after that?
She said she had to go to Shannon's house to get some of her stuff, and that she would call when she was ready for us to take her.
Got it,
She never did.
okay. Very good, Mr. Hunt.
Do you see Shannon in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
And can you please describe where this person is seated and the article of clothing this person's wearing?
She's sitting over there with the defense attorney. She's wearing a gray jumpsuit.
Your Honor, the record reflects that the witness has identified the defendant.
The record will so reflect.
All right, thank you. And how long had you known, and I'm going to call her Ms. McCarthy or the defendant from this point forward, how long had you known the defendant for?
My mom introduced her to us on Thanksgiving 2022.
What was your understanding of the relationship between the defendant and your mother?
They were girlfriends. I mean, I didn't spend much time with Miss McCarthy.
All right, did they reside together?
My mom had her own house, but she did stay with Shannon too. She had basically two places that she stayed.
And where did the defendant live? You know the address?
5321 Colonial Avenue, I believe.
And what part of Jacksonville is that in?
The west side, 32210.
Is that in Duval County?
Yes, sir.
So getting back to our timeline, your mother never called you when she said she was taking her to the hospital, correct?
No.
All right. Did you make any efforts on Thursday, June 29th, to reach out to your mother?
I did not. My father, however, did see her that day.
Okay, and I'll talk to him later. When was the next time you made an effort to talk to your mother?
I believe it was Saturday, because normally any conversation goes between Jeff, not me.
And Jeff, that's your father, is that
Yes.
correct? All right. So on Saturday, when you made an effort to reach out to your mother, what happened?
No answer. Just no answer for me.
And how did you try to reach out to her?
I can't remember if I reached out on Messenger that day or a Sunday, but I tried calling, I think I tried texting, and I tried calling through Messenger.
Did you at any point on Saturday, which would have been June 30th, did you at any point on Saturday make efforts to speak with the defendant after you could not get a hold of your mother?
Yes, that Saturday, Jeff and I both went over there to try to return Mom's truck that we had borrowed on Friday. Mom didn't like being without vehicles, so we went over there and Shannon then said that Mom had left on Thursday night and she hadn't been seen since.
Did the defendant tell you why your mother had left?
She said that Haley and Mom had gotten into an argument.
Okay, and who is Haley?
Haley is Shannon's younger sister.
So the defendant told you that Haley and your mother got in some kind of argument?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned the truck. Your father had borrowed the truck the day before on the 29th?
Yes, Yes, sir, on Friday.
All right. What was, when you met with the defendant on Saturday, what was her demeanor?
Anxious, but I think, like, trying to be calm.
Did you ask to go inside the home then?
Not at that point, no.
Okay. Was there anything else that was eventful that you remember on that particular day, on Saturday?
Just that her story had changed multiple times.
So within that one conversation on the 30th about where your mother was, the defendant's story changed multiple times?
Yes.
In what way?
Well, initially, she said mom had left on Thursday, and on Friday, she said mom was in bed sick. So later, her story would change on Saturday to mom had left Thursday night, and I can't remember if she said all of these on Saturday or if it was Sunday as well, but she said that mom had left with a friend named Kenny, that mom had left in her journey, which was impossible because it had been broken down at her other residence for at least 6 months. She said mom walked off. She said mom left with Haley. She said multiple stories.
And all of this was on Saturday, or was it?
And possibly Sunday as well. I could be mixing the two.
All right. So then, let's go to the next day, which would have been Sunday, July 1st. Did you make efforts to reach out to your mother on that day?
I'm sure I did. I can't remember, but
All right. At some point, did you get concerned enough that you contacted the police?
yes, I initially tried to report her missing on Saturday because we hadn't heard from her and the stories were changing, so we were worried. They said that my mother was an adult, that adults sometimes leave without telling people.
Okay. And then on July 1st, did you try to visit the home?
Was that Sunday?
That was Sunday, yes.
Yes, we did.
And what happened when you went over to the house on Sunday?
We went over there, and because Shannon had said she planned on selling her house and cutting her losses, we didn't want mom's stuff to get taken or thrown away. So we went over there to see if she would let us take anything. So she's like, no, I'll call you whenever I'm ready for that. And then we were like, okay, well, everything's strange. We haven't seen her. Can we just see with our own eyes she's not here? So while I waited outside, she allowed Jeff to go in through the back door.
Okay. And I'll stop you there.
Who's Jeff?
That's father.
My father.
And he's your stepfather, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So, the defendant allowed Jeff, his name is Jeff McCree, is that correct?
Yes,
So
sir.
she allowed Mr. Jeff McCree to go into the home, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And were you able to pick up any of your mother's stuff on that day?
No.
And was there any discussion about you getting a vehicle at that time?
No, we already had possession of the truck. We took possession of the truck on Friday, and it did not go back to that house unaccompanied ever after that.
Okay. Was there anything about the truck that seemed off to you?
We did not notice this until after, on Sunday, that there was a hole on the side of it. Well, we noticed one hole, but on Friday, but we didn't pay attention. And then on Sunday, we noticed that there was another hole in the very back.
All right. Now, let's go to Monday, which would have been July 2nd. Do you have a good memory of that day?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened on that day? And when I say what happened that day, let's be a little more specific. Did you make efforts to contact your mom that day?
I believe we called on my grandparents' phone and Jeff's phone, and I may have called on mine, but mostly we were printing out flyers and planning on going to pass them around. And I also was going to call to see if we could go over with the officer to pick up some of my mom's stuff, but it started raining before we could do that, so.
Did you visit the home on Colonial that day?
We drove by.
All right. Did you have any conversation with the defendant that day?
No.
And what about Tuesday, which would have been July 3rd?
Yes. Tuesday.
Did you, oops, sorry, just, did you make any contact, did you make efforts to contact your mother that day?
Again, I'm sure we did, but I can't expressly remember.
At any point, was your phone cut off, or
Yeah,
what day was that?
yes, that was Monday. We woke up to mine and my father's phone. We had a shared family plan with Shannon and my mother.
Okay. And your phone was cut off?
Yes, and it was in her name,
When you say her name?
Shannon's name.
When you called your mother, was her phone cut off?
I wasn't able to call her, but a friend of ours did, and she said it went through, it just went to voicemail.
All right. So then, Tuesday, did you have any conversation with the defendant?
We went over to her house on Tuesday.
What happened when you went over to the house?
We went over there, and we were like, seeing as you said that you were planning on leaving, we would like to get anything you'd let us get. So she's like, okay, you can get the stuff out the shed. So we went and grabbed a few things that were in the shed, and the whole time that we're getting it, she's complaining about money, and that my mom owed her money. And she's asked if we needed to take all of her tools, because, oh yeah, take everything worth money.
At any point, did the defendant show any concern for your mother's well-being?
No.
Did she tell you anything about where your mother was on July 2nd?
No, she said she might be with Kimmy, but the whole time she's just, she's gonna come back as soon as she finished getting her stuff.
Who's Kimmy?
Kimmy is my mom's longtime friend. They've been friends since my mom was like 20.
And were you able to verify that Kimmy had not had any contact with your mother?
She said that initially on Sunday, and I lied and said I'd already spoken to Kimmy at that point, but after we left that house on Sunday, I verified she wasn't with Kimmy, and at that point, nobody had talked to her.
All right. And then Tuesday, rather, was July 4th. Did you make any efforts to contact your mother that day?
Again, I'm sure we did. I probably called on my grandparents' phone. They probably called. I didn't have a phone at that
Did
point.
you visit the home on Colonial that day?
Yes, we did.
And what
That's
happened?
when we went over to see if we could grab some of my mom's stuff.
More stuff on 4th of July?
No, that was on Tuesday where we went to go get the stuff.
Was that the last, when you went to get the stuff, was that the last time that you went over there
Yes.
to Colonial?
We drove by on Wednesday, but the police officers were there at that point.
At any point during this, I know it's a bunch of days that we're going to run together, but at any point during this, let's say Wednesday through the next Tuesday, did you collect any shoes?
Yes, I did. That was on Tuesday.
All right, what was interesting about those shoes?
Well, initially it was just weird to me that she'd only washed one pair of shoes and they were my mom's. And then, so whenever she went in, because I asked her to grab my mom's computers, I just went ahead and snatched them and hid them in the truck.
All right, and these shoes, what was their condition when you?
They were wet, but if you look close enough, you could see something that looked like blood on them.
And these shoes, when you say they were washed, how do you know they were washed?
They were wet, and she expressly told me, I washed a pair of your mom's shoes, they're sitting there to dry.
When she let you in the house on that Tuesday,
No,
did she say why she wouldn't let you in the house? When I say she, did the defendant tell you why she would not let you in the house?
no, but at that point, she just said that everything was a mess in there, she's trying to go through stuff, she'll let us know whenever we pick up the rest of mom's stuff.
All right. Now, I want to show you a few photographs. This is State's Exhibit A, right there for A1. You can look at this photograph on your screen, ma'am. Do you recognize this address?
Yes, that is Shannon's house.
And do you notice any lattice work on the front porch area?
Yes.
Could you explain, during the time span of the week that you had visited to try to find your mom, did that change, did the lattice work, were there changes to that porch, and if you could explain what those were?
Yes, that lattice had never been there until we were leaving on Tuesday after we'd gotten a few of Mom's things. And I saw Shannon trying to put the lattice up on the outside and while we were leaving.
All right. And the vehicle that's there, whose vehicle was that?
That's Shannon's.
Okay. And was that vehicle, compared to previous times you've been in this home, was that vehicle usually parked in that manner?
No, because it had been in an accident and she didn't like to drive it very much if she had the opportunity. That vehicle was typically parked in the backyard.
All right. And then, more, is it, you said the backyard, is this A5, what are we looking at here?
Yes, A5, sorry.
What is that, if you can tell the board?
That's the backyard.
All right. Now, this might sound strange, like a strange question, but did you, when you went over there, did you notice any like odors or anything?
I typically do not smell very well. I have severe allergies and I hadn't been taking my medicine at that point, so I couldn't smell very well.
Okay. Were you aware of meat that was rotting in the yard?
Yes, that had been there for weeks and Jeff had asked to take it and throw it away and she kept saying, no, I'll get to it.
Who kept telling you that?
Shannon.
Okay. Now, I want to direct your attention back to January of that year, 2023, and specifically January 29th. Do you have a memory of that day or night?
That was Thursday, right?
Well, I'm not worried about the days. Do you remember that being like an event in January that you still remember? Involving?
Yes, January, I'm sorry, stuck on July. Yes, I do remember January.
All right, and if you could tell the court, did you visit your, the colonial address for some reason?
Yes, I did.
And what was the reason you visited?
Jeff got a call somewhere around 12:30 at night from my mom saying that she's gonna kill me, call the police, get over here.
Okay, and who was she?
Shannon,
Okay, Shannon was gonna kill your mom?
yes.
Okay, did you go to the address?
Yes, we left so quick I didn't put on shoes.
All right, and when you got to the address, Colonial, what did you observe?
Because we knew it was a volatile situation, we parked on the edge of the road so we could leave easily. And we sat in the car for a second to see if we could hear anything. And I heard thuds, and I could tell if they were coming from the back of the house.
All right, did you enter the house then?
Yes, I went in and I just thought, I called Mom, I'm here, and I ran through the back to Shannon's bedroom.
All right, and when you went to the defendant's bedroom, what did you see?
She had Mom backed into a corner, face to face, and seemingly aggressive.
Did you observe any injuries on your mother?
Yes, her face was swollen.
All right. Anything else?
She was clearly upset.
What was the defendant, do you recall if the defendant was saying anything to your mom?
She was, I think she was whispering, but I couldn't hear anything, so I couldn't tell you what she was saying.
Direct you to what's B1, and I'm just going to see if you can identify this. Is that your mother from that day on January 29th?
Yes, sir.
And then on B2, what are you seeing in those photographs, or in that photograph, sorry?
She has marks on her face and her eye swollen.
And was that what you observed on those injuries that you just described? Is that what you observed?
Yes.
Fun. And then B3,
That's a bite mark on her upper chest towards her armpit. Yep, it's a bite mark.
and B4 for the record. And then B5
That's her eye, where it's bruised.
and B6.
another bruise and cut along her eyebrow.
And did you observe any injuries to the defendant on that day?
No,
And police were called, is that correct?
yes,
And the defendant was arrested?
yes,
And those injuries you described, were those on your mother the previous time you'd seen her from compared to the time you arrived on
no,
January? Now, did your mother own any firearms?
never.
Do you know if the defendant owned any firearms?
Yes, she kept a shotgun by the front door, and I believe she had 2 handguns. I'm not completely positive, but I've seen at least 1 or 2 laying around.
To your knowledge, has your mother ever fired a gun in her life?
No,
To your knowledge, did your mother enjoy guns or have any kind of...
she was terrified of them.
I don't think I have any other questions.
Cross-examination?
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Shepard, you mentioned this fight back in January of 2023.
Yes,
Leading up to June, your mom was staying over at Shannon McCarthy's house frequently, right?
yes.
So there was nothing going on between them in terms of fighting or anything like that that you knew about, right?
Mom would show up with bruises and explain random things happened, but no, I never knew of any incidents other than the one in January.
Okay, so a fight in January, and then in June, you're not aware of your mom making statements to you like, I'm scared of her or anything like that, right?
Well, she'd been sent threats, and Mom had brought up that she was worried about that.
Okay, but then the two of them would continuously get back together, right? But she's still
Yes.
staying over there, right? In
Yes.
fact, before when she said, I'm gonna go to the hospital, or I need to go to the hospital at some point, first place she went was Shannon's, right?
She went to Shannon's to get her stuff. She came to us.
Okay, and then you said you hadn't heard from her with respect to that trip to the hospital, but you didn't reach out and say, hey, how come you're not coming back over to go to the hospital?
I believe we called her, but normally if she's not going to answer, she's not going to answer.
Okay, so that wasn't conduct that was sort of out of the ordinary, right? She just disappeared for a day or two.
No, she wouldn't disappear. Someone always knew where she was. She just didn't answer her phone.
Okay, so there are times that when she just didn't want to talk to you, I guess she just didn't answer her phone, right?
Well, she slept hard, and she kept her phone on silent half the time.
Okay, and you're around her all the time to know that she keeps her phone on silent, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Were you ready?
No.
Okay, I do have a question. All right, so the time that your mom, I guess, for a week or so, you didn't know where she was, when did you see her next?
I'm sorry. The last time I saw her in person was on the 28th of June.
Okay. Okay, so when we're talking about the June time when she went missing, that's June of 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You were introduced to Ms. McCarthy in November of
Thanksgiving.
2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And the incident that you talked about when you saw your mom with bruises and bite marks, that was in January of 2023, so about 6 months before she went missing in June.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions based on, I just wanted to make sure I had the timeline right.
No, Your Honor.
Questions based on that?
No, Judge.
All right, may this witness stand down?
Yes.
Excused?
Yes.
All right, ma'am. Can she be permanent excused for today?
Yes, Judge.
All right, ma'am, you're permanent excused, you may remain in the courtroom if you wish, or you may be excused.
Thank you.
Your Honor, we got the next call, Mr. McCree.
Okay.
Raise your right hand for me, please. You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
If you get real close to the mic and speak up nice and loud for me.
Mr. McCree, thank you for being here today. Can you please introduce yourself to the court, sir?
My name is Shannon McCarthy.
And could you spell your name, please?
It's Jeffrey, J-F-F-R-E-Y, Allen, A-L-E-N, McCree, M-C-C-R-E-D-Y,
All right, thank you. And sir, how old are you?
48,
And are you employed?
self-employed,
And what do you do?
handyman services.
All right. Did you know anyone named Heather Shepard?
Yes, sir.
How did you know Miss Shepard?
I was with her for about 13, 14 years.
And what time frame was that?
I'm not good with dates. It was at least 4 or 5 years ago. Prior to that, 13 years ago.
Sure, your relationship.
Yeah.
And even though you're not in a relationship, did you remain friends with Miss Shepard?
Yes, sir.
And did you actually work with Miss Shepard?
Yes, sir.
And what jobs did you do?
We cleaned, we worked on base, we had a cleaning service on base, and we did maintenance on base too. And handyman services with houses, or residential cleaning, commercial cleaning, pretty much anything.
When you say the base, you mean the Navy base?
Navy base, yes, sir.
All right. And that's NES Jacks?
And that's, that was made for.
Okay, work. But she lived relatively close to NES Jacks, is that correct?
She had her house was in North Jacks, actually, off of Lassie Road.
And then the defendant, Ms. McCarthy, are you familiar with her?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall where she lived?
I know where she lived, yes, sir.
Okay, where is that?
I don't know the address off the top of my head.
That's close to NES Jacks?
Yes, sir.
All right, the meeting where.
It's over in the Lake Shore area, something like that, I believe.
All right, I apologize for confusing you. You said you do know Ms. McCarthy. How do you know Ms. McCarthy?
Through Heather.
Okay, did you see her in the courtroom today, Ms. McCarthy?
Yes, sir.
And could you describe her? She's seated in article of clothing she's wearing.
She's wearing a gray jumpsuit or something.
You know, the red reflective, we just identified the defendant.
The record was so reflective.
All right. Now, I want to move somewhat chronologically as best we can. First, I want to talk to you about an incident in January. The court already heard some of this, but did you respond to an incident in January, late January, that involved the defendant and Ms. Shepard?
Yes, sir.
And did you observe, what did you make any observations about Ms. Shepard's appearance when you responded?
When I arrived,
Yes.
she was stressed out. I mean, they were sweating, scratched up maybe. I don't remember exactly all the details of it.
All right. And then I wanted
to tell that there had been tussling or something been going on, you know what I mean?
okay.
She was scared.
All right. Now I wanted to direct your attention to June of 2023. All right. When was the last time you saw Ms. Shepard alive?
That was Thursday, the 29th.
All right. And what were the circumstances that you see from that day?
She called me and needed some cigarettes and didn't feel like going nowhere, so I took her some, and she showed me some brush she cleaned out in the backyard. Was excited about it. I gave her cigarettes and talked to her for a few minutes on it.
Good. Do you recall what time that was?
Probably around 1 o'clock.
All right. In the afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Now, were you aware that she wasn't feeling well, or that there was some issue with going to a doctor?
Yeah, she had told me that she wasn't feeling good, had diarrhea, stomach was hurting real bad.
All right. Now, did you have any more communication with her on Thursday?
No, sir.
And did you have plans Friday? Did you have a job that you had to work at?
Yes, sir.
And did you need to Did Ms. Shepard own a vehicle?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
Toyota Tacoma.
All right. And where was she keeping the Tacoma at this time?
She was driving herself, it was at Shannon's house.
Okay. And I should have asked you this earlier, but when you dropped off the cigarettes, whose house was that at?
Shannon's.
Okay. So at this time, she was staying with Shannon, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
The defendant. All right. So getting back to the 30th, which was Friday, you needed the truck to work. Was the defendant, was Ms. Shepard supposed to work with you that day?
Yes, sir.
Did you call Ms. Shepard or try to make some effort at contacting her to see if she could, if she was still able to work with you?
Yes, sir. I texted her and she knew she was gonna go to work.
Okay.
And I called her and Shannon answered her phone.
Okay. Well, let's break that down a little bit. So you texted her. Did you get an immediate response?
Yeah, that I wasn't feeling good, that I was sick, and I wasn't feeling good, that she was in bed.
Okay. Did you then try to call as well, you said?
Yes, sir.
And who answered the phone?
Shannon.
All right. Now, what did Shannon tell you or what did the defendant tell you, sorry, when she answered the phone?
That I didn't need to come there, that she would bring me the truck and stuff, and I was already at the store right down the road from her house, so I told her, no, I'd be there, that she didn't know what I needed equipment-wise, so I just went there.
And when you went there, did you go inside the residence?
No, sir.
Was Shannon waiting for you outside when you arrived?
Yes,
Or,
sir.
sorry, I keep saying Shannon. Was the defendant waiting for you outside when you got to the residence?
Yes, sir.
Did the defendant tell you anything else when you got there?
That Heather was sick and didn't feel good, and that she was gonna stay home,
Was there anything about
that she was sleeping too, sorry.
okay, was there anything about the terminology that she used that you have a memory of?
What do you mean, like the way she was acting?
Just the words that the defendant used.
They were just the kind of the same thing as what Heather said the night before or the day before, something like that. And just kind of threw it off, you know. It just kind of felt weird that Heather wasn't outside, because Heather's always outside and Shannon's never outside, and we're supposed to be quiet, not to wake her. And Shannon was acting all funny and stuff.
All right. And did the defendant, her explanation of what happened to Ms. Shepard, did that match the text message in the same exact
The
verbiage?
exact words, word for word.
And what did that?
I don't remember it exactly. She was saying that she was sick in bed, or she was up late at night with the neighbors or something, and that she was sick in bed, and that she wasn't home.
All right. Now, you get the truck, you do your work. Did you try to call again later that day on Friday?
Yes, sir.
What happened when you tried to call again?
Shane answered the phone and said that Heather was asleep and that we didn't need the truck, or she wasn't going to need the truck until Monday.
All right. Now, what about what about Saturday, the next day? Did you make any efforts to contact Heather Shepard?
Yes, sir. I called and no response, no response.
All right. Did you visit the home on Colonial?
Yes, sir.
What happened when you visited?
Shannon was outside mowing the yard, something like that, cleaning up the yard, and come over to us and told me that she had left, that Heather had left.
Did she tell you why Heather left?
No, what she said that her sister and her was arguing one the night before or something like that, and then that she had left the next morning with Haley. Then she wasn't in that bed sick anymore, that her and Haley had left
Okay.
late that night. So,
Was that consistent with what she told you the first time about Heather being sick and staying in bed?
no, that all changed. It went from her not even being sick or there to she left the Haley.
All right. Did you go inside the home that Saturday, if you remember?
Well, if it was, no, it wasn't Saturday, she didn't let me in Saturday.
Okay. So let's talk about Sunday, which would have been July 2nd. Did you make efforts to contact Heather?
Yes, sir.
And what happened when you made efforts to contact Heather?
Nothing, just no answer, text or call.
All right. Did you visit the home again?
Yes, sir.
And what happened when you visited the home?
Shannon told us that Heather had left in her car, her journey, which had been broke down for months behind Heather's house up in North Jacks. And then so we left it alone or something, and we left. And every time we visit, she had a different story with what Heather was, how she left. She said she left with her girlfriend Kimmy. And then she said she didn't know what vehicle she was in or whatever. And then she said she just took off walking. So it just all went.
All right. And just so there's no confusion, so Ms. Shepard had a Tacoma or a truck, right?
Yes, sir.
But then she also had a
A
Dodge Journey that she kept at the house on the north side.
Her residence, yes, sir.
So that Journey was never at the home on Cologne.
I had been there before, yes, but not within like 6 months or so. Okay.
All right. On that Sunday, did you go inside the home?
I believe it was a Sunday. One of those days, I'm kind of confused with it because
When you went in the home, which way did you enter the home? Like how did you?
she made me come around the back and come into the back door. She wouldn't let me through the front door. She had the front steps covered with bags of Heather's clothes and stuff where you couldn't come in.
All right. Normally, when you visited the home, like would you enter the front door?
Oh, every time. Never go around the back.
But on this time, you say she, the defendant told you to go to the back.
Yes, sir.
And when you went inside, where did you go inside?
Everywhere. She let me walk everywhere except towards the front of the room by the foyer and where it leads to the porch. She took me into the bedroom and the living room area and the kitchen, and that was it. And her she has an extra room. She took me through there.
All right. Did you notice any blood anywhere at this time?
No, sir. I was mainly looking for Heather and like buckets and everything.
All right. At this point, were you able to smell anything?
Yes, sir. You could smell something bad outside.
Okay.
Towards the front of the house.
All right. Did you ask the defendant what the smell was?
Well, prior to that, there was a two with rotten hamburger over by the garbage can, and I'd asked if they wanted me to remove it, and she wouldn't let me, so I assumed that's what it was at first, but you could tell the smell was a little bit stronger closer to the front of the house, not over to the side of the fence where the garbage can was.
All right. And then, did you make, after you left that day, did you make other efforts to try to get a hold of Ms. Shepard?
Every day, constantly.
And you were unable to, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall anything else, during that time period where you spoke with Ms. McCarthy?
We went back over there, and she let us get some of her stuff, and that was pretty much around the last time we talked to her, because we were supposed to stay away and try to get involved.
All right. To your knowledge, did Ms. Shepard own any firearms?
Yes, sir.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, so let me just clarify something. So, the last time you saw Ms. Shepard was on that Thursday?
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, ma'am. Sorry. Yes, ma'am. Thursday, around 1 o'clock, so I believe it was.
And that was for June 30th, something like that?
June 29th.
It was the 29th, Thursday.
Okay, so you last saw her on Thursday, and then you didn't have any contact with her after that day?
No, ma'am.
Now, when did you go over there? You went over to get the truck?
Friday morning.
Friday morning, you went over to get the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you get the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that was to go to work?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
said your tools and stuff?
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
you did. All right, and then, when's the next time you went over to her house?
Saturday morning.
Saturday. Is that when she let you in the front or not?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so,
shocks and the front end was messed up, so she didn't want to drive it, so it was parked in the back of her house in North Jack.
Not Heather's house, but.
Heather's house, yes ma'am.
Oh, I mean,
Heather's
not
house.
Shannon's house, but
Yes ma'am.
Heather's house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And, did you ever go by there and see if the adjourn was there?
Yes ma'am.
Was it there?
We went there, yes ma'am.
Okay. All right, and then when did she let you in the back of the house?
I'm really confused with the dates exactly. It was either that Sunday or Monday, one of those. The last time I was there with it, she let us in. She let me in to come in and look.
Okay. And
I'm
then,
not good with dates and stuff.
that's okay, me neither. So, and did you see anything odd?
Yeah, there was a tarp hanging up at the time. That was odd. And her just doing the laundry and cleaning and stuff and everything. She never did that stuff. She even pointed out that she never did laundry and stuff like that. So that was odd. And just the way she was acting and everything. She was telling us she was cleaning up everything. She was gonna sell everything and cut her losses and leave. And
Did you know what you meant, like she was gonna sell everything and cut her losses?
sell her house, I was assuming, like leaving.
Okay, and then you said you, was some sort of odor that you
Yes,
thought
ma'am.
was coming
In
from
front of the house.
the front of the house?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And when you went over there to get her stuff, or you took, was the day she let you in, was Michaela with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, any questions based on Mr. Whitmire?
No, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. Fletcher?
No, Judge.
Okay, all right, may Mr. McCree be excused from his sitting at this point?
Yes.
All right, sir, thank you for your time and testimony. Please do not talk with your testimony about any person. You may talk with the lawyers if you wish to know the person.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're excused, so you may either stay or leave.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would next call Detective Porter.
Okay, very well.
Raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
If you make sure you speak right up into that microphone.
Yes, sir.
All right, Detective Porter, thank you for being here today. Can you please introduce yourself to the court, sir?
My name is Detective Kevin Porter from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, Missing Person Unit.
And how long have you been assigned to the missing person unit?
I've been assigned to the Missing Person Unit for approximately a year and a half.
All right. And I want to direct your attention back to late June, spilling into early July of 2023, so last year.
Yes.
Were you assigned to investigate a reported missing person, Heather Shepard?
Yes, I was.
And I want to direct your attention to specifically Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. Do you have a good memory of that day?
Yes, sir.
Did you visit a home, 5321 Colonial Avenue?
Yes, I did.
And when you got there, did you meet with anybody? Was there anybody at that home?
Yes, yes, sir.
Who was that?
And that was Shannon.
Okay. And do you see the person you described as Shannon in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir. She's sitting next to counsel.
All right. Your Honor, the record reflect that witness has identified the defendant.
The witness will so reflect.
All right, thank you. All right, so Wednesday you arrived, and did you make any immediate observations when you got there?
Yes, sir. When we arrived to the house, myself and Detective Hamilton, there was a car parked back into the driveway at like an angle.
All right, and if you look at your screen, there is states A1. You can please take a look at it. Do you recall this, or are you able to describe this photograph? Is that consistent with what you just described, sir? Is that fair and accurate?
Yes, yes, it is.
All right, so you saw the vehicle parked at this angle. Where was the defendant, was she inside the home or outside the home?
She was inside.
Okay. Did you go to the front door, or how did you try to let her know that you were there?
I myself walked up to the screen, and Detective Hamilton walked to the door, entrance to the screen door.
Okay. Were you able to enter it at that point?
No, sir.
Okay. Why weren't you able to enter the screen door?
There was plywood in front of the door.
All right. I'm going to show you A2, which describes plywood. Is that the plywood that you just referenced, sir?
Yes, sir.
And do you see a fan in this photograph?
I can't see it from here. I did see one when I was on the porch.
Do you see is there a black item, not the mailbox, but another black item?
Oh, yes, there's one at the bottom, yes, I do see
All
that.
right, you just circle it. It works like a telestrator, so if you touch it.
Oh, okay. Here.
All right. And then we'll go to A3. Is this just another photograph, sir, of the same, just a different angle?
Just a circle?
You don't need to circle this, it's just
Yes.
a photograph of the same angle. All right, so your partner went to the back of the house, is that correct? Or at some point, did you have to go to the back of the house in order to make contact with the defendant?
Yes, sir. After he knocked on this door that we see with the fan, and she came out and told us she'll meet us around back.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question, clarification?
Yes, ma'am.
You see that piece of wood that's in that photograph? Was that there like that, or was it over the front door?
Which,
You see the piece of wood that's sitting on the ground,
yes, ma'am.
kind of tilty? Was that like it was, or was it on the front door?
No, I believe it was like it is now.
Okay.
I didn't go to that door. I kind of walked past it because I was on the other side of the screen, closer to the front door as you're going to the entrance of the home.
Okay.
As you go in this photograph, as you go, I was standing in that pane, not where you see the window and the siding. I was at that pane where if you look inside, there's a door leading out to the porch.
Oh, I see.
So I was standing there, Detective Hamilton was knocking on the door in the entrance of the screen where the fan was.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And when you say the defendant made it, like, did she come out to the front? Or how did she, where did she go when she went out?
When she came out of the home?
Yes. When she said, I'll come meet you around back, like, where did she go?
Okay, she came out of the door on the screen, she closed that door and came out of the back door.
Okay. All right. And then you guys, you and Detective Hamilton went to the back, is this the back of the home, sir, in 85?
Yes, that's the rear of the home, but we actually met her on the side of the home. Just past, just before you get to that. If you look at the ladder and the vehicle, we were on the other side of the vehicle as we're going towards the back home.
All right. And when you made contact with her, did you ask her any questions, or did you have a conversation about Ms. Shepard, who you were trying to find?
Yes, sir, because it was a missing person
And
investigation.
what did the defendant tell you when you asked her?
She didn't know where she was.
Okay. Did she tell you when was the last time she saw her?
I'm going to refer to my report to be sure. Not exactly the last time she saw her, but I know that she mentioned an altercation that occurred between them.
Okay. Did you gain entrance to the home?
Yes, I did.
And what door did you go in to get into the home?
To get into the home, we went through the rear door.
All right, and when you got through the rear door, did you notice any odors or anything?
I noticed on the outside of our home before we went to the back of the but once we got into the home, in the rear, I didn't at that time.
Okay. When you were in the home, was the defendant leading you, or did she lead you to the other rooms in the home? In other words, just kind of explain what happened.
Okay.
Best thing to ask you.
When she gave us consent to search, when she gave us permission to come into the home, she was going in and out of the door of the rear of the home, bringing things out. Property, she said, was for her. And so we followed her in. I told her we need to walk with her just to check the home. She led me to, as you enter the home, you make a right to the bedrooms. So she opened the doors so I could see the room where a person would be. And after I checked the room, she walked towards Detective Hamilton, who was already in another part of the home, just standing like in the hallway. And we walked out into the common area. And I walked out after nothing was in the home. And we walked into the living room.
Okay. And when you walked into the living room, what happened next after you got in the living room? Did you try to go towards the front, to the porch area?
Yes, we were checking the living room, checking to make sure she wasn't there. And as we walked towards the living room, I walked into the living room, there was a door that was leading out to the porch.
Okay. And before you get to the porch, did you notice blood or anything in the home at this point?
I did not.
Okay. So you go towards the porch. Did you, as you went to the porch, towards the porch, what did the defendant do?
She stood by the door on the porch and locked the door.
All right. And did you say anything, or did you ask her why you locked the door?
Yes, I did. I asked her why she locked the door. We need to just check that area as well.
What did she tell you?
She mentioned something about it being junky out there.
Okay. And did she eventually unlock the door, or did you take a hand have to unlock the door?
No, she unlocked the door. She unlocked the door and she opened the door and stood in the doorway.
And did you then go onto the porch area?
Yes, I did.
And when you went onto the porch area, did you notate anything with there? Did you see
Oh,
it?
yes.
Okay. What did you see? And just, Your Honor, it may be appropriate, there may be some sensitive photos that are going to be shown, some
Okay.
family.
All right, so,
I know the jury's not here, but just.
yes, but that's a good point. So, just want to understand that we're probably you're going to see some photos that may be upsetting, so if anybody wants to leave before those photos are shown, it might be a good idea to do now. And then once those photos are shown, and we're done doing that, we'll certainly welcome you back into the courtroom if you'd like. Okay.
So 813, so this is the door that leads to the porch, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then 814, what are we looking at here, sir?
This is the front porch of the home, and there's the doorway that Detective Hamilton, if you look straight ahead, that Detective Hamilton knocked on. The door we're coming out of at this time, as you see the camera coming out, is where the defendant initially came out and told us she'll need us around back.
And so this is on the right-hand corner of that picture, you see the door that opens up in the interior of the home to the porch, like a little part of the
Yes.
door? All right. So you walk into this porch area, and do you see any fans? If you just circle them, if you see any fans in the picture?
Yes, sir, right here.
And to the right of the fan, is there a candle or some type of item with like a tube inside of it?
Yes, there was a candle burning on the porch, I believe this is.
All right. And do you see like a wet dry vac on the floor?
Yes, here.
All right. So is this what you saw when you first emerged or first went to the porch?
Yes.
And did the defendant say anything to you about the smell, or did she make any comments to you, if you recall?
Yet you made some comment about raw meat
All right,
being left out by Romy.
okay. And as you walked on the porch, did anything else, do you remember anything else that happened that you observed?
When I walked on the porch, I could see the mound ahead of me. There was even a plate with food in it still left on the porch. The defendant grabbed a paper, it was a plastic tablecloth, which appeared to me was a tablecloth, and then flung it over the mound that you see ahead of you on the picture.
All right. And then after she threw that plastic tablecloth on the mound, what did you do next?
At that point, I told her that we needed to search everywhere, and so I put on gloves, and I stepped over there towards the mound, and I removed the plastic tablecloth off of the mound.
All right. And once you removed the plastic tablecloth, what did you see?
As I was closer to the mound, I could see fluid on the ground. I could see, so what I was trying to do was step over the fluid. There's another mat that was there, like a welcome mat. So when I stepped over it, I stepped on the mat, and with my gloves, I just started peeling back the layers.
And as you peeled back the layers, did you come in contact with anyone or anything?
Yes, there was a body under, once I peeled a couple of layers back, there was, you could see the outline of the body in the plastic.
Okay. And did you notice any insects or anything like that around?
Yes, as I was pulling the layers back, the mags were bellowing out.
And were you able?
Can you circle where he's talking about the mound, please?
Sure. Could you circle on the picture of the mound?
Yes, sir.
I think it's not coming across online, so.
Oh, it's not?
Yes, ma'am. So that's it. And I believe this.
Yeah, for some reason, the circles aren't showing up on my screen.
If they're showing up on the other.
They're showing up on this one, but they're not showing up on this one, so I'll just look over here.
All right. Oh, okay. All right.
That's good, I can see.
All right.
It's
And then when you lifted back the picture, or sorry, when you lifted back the mound, you came in contact with the body, is that correct, sir?
Yes.
All right. And was that person later identified as Heather Shepard?
Yes, it was.
All right. And then from this point, did you call homicide?
Yes, we did.
All right. And did you detain the defendant at this point?
Yes, I did.
During your conversations with Ms. McCarthy, at any point did she tell you that she shot Ms. Shepard?
No, sir.
Did she say she acted in self-defense at any point?
No, sir.
All right. I don't have any other questions.
Right.
No questions, Judge?
Can I see the photo of the body, please?
Yes. And for the record, that's A17.
Okay, and you found her body underneath the layers?
Yes,
How
ma'am.
many layers would you say were there?
Maybe four or five. Because I didn't get to this point that you're seeing now. There was when I got to a certain layer, there was one that was more opaque, like there was a plastic cover. So I could see the outline of the face, I could tell the way the legs were, because you could see the knees. And then I just,
You stopped?
immediately I stopped.
Okay, all right. So that was done, that was taken later after the
Yes.
PT on those days.
Because I didn't pull it all the way off, I was pulling layers at the top of the body.
Okay, I understand. Questions based on that?
No.
Questions based on that?
No, Judge.
All right. So may Detective Porter be excused from his subpoena?
Yes.
All right, Detective, thank you for your time and testimony. Please do not talk about your testimony with any person. You may talk to lawyers
Yes, ma'am.
I have 3 more witnesses, Your Honor. I was going to call the medical examiner next. It's a little bit out of order just for his time.
Yes, sure, go ahead.
Dr. Falsgraf.
You solemnly swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Respect it.
Pull up the chair and talk right in that microphone. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Falsgraf, you can please introduce yourself to the court, sir.
My name is Dr. Robert Falsgraf.
And where are you currently employed?
I'm employed at the District 4 Medical Examiner's Office.
And how long have you been employed there?
About 7.5 years,
And how long have you been a medical examiner throughout your entire career?
since 1989.
In District 4, that covers Duval County, is that correct, sir?
Yes.
And can you describe just your training experience to become a medical examiner?
I'll start with college. I went to Wittenberg University in Springfield, Ohio, and got a bachelor's degree in chemistry. I then went to the Ohio State University School of Medicine and received my medical degree in 1984. From 1984 to 1988, I did a residency in general pathology at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. And then I did a one-year fellowship in forensic pathology at the University of New Mexico Office of the Medical Investigator.
And you've conducted autopsies throughout your career.
Yes.
Could you even, given the length of your career, could you even begin to guess how many autopsies you've conducted?
I quit counting like after a long, probably halfway through my career. I probably have over 10,000.
Okay. I want to ask you, have you ever testified in court before, sir?
Yes.
In Duval County Court?
Yes.
How many times do you believe you testified, roughly?
I probably testified at least 6 times a year, except when COVID was going around.
And if I asked you the term manner of death, what does that mean?
By definition, and again, on a death certificate that I'm involved in, the manner of death is a medical determination, meaning, is it natural, is it an accident, is it a suicide, or is it a homicide?
All right. And then, what is meant by the term cause of death?
Cause of death is the injury or it could be a natural disease, whatever initiates the cascade of events that lead to death.
And when you conduct autopsies, are you sometimes able to offer an opinion about both the cause of death and the manner of death?
Yes.
And have you, in your career, ever conducted autopsies of people that have succumbed to gunshot wounds?
Yes.
I want to direct your attention to an autopsy of a Heather Nicole Shepard that was conducted on July 6, 2023, so Thursday, July 6, 2023. Did you, in fact, conduct that autopsy?
Yes.
And did you bring your report today in the event that you need to reference it for accuracy?
Yes.
All right. So at any time you need to review your report, just let me know and let the court know.
Okay.
And I want to ask you, when you first examined the body, did you make any immediate observations about the condition of the body?
Well, the most obvious was the body was moderately decomposed and had fly activity.
Okay. use the term decompose, from a medical standpoint, what does that mean, like from a medical standpoint?
It's basically after a person dies and normal body chemical reactions are no longer active. The bacteria on the inside start to take over and cause the body to form gas and turn dark colors and get what's called skin slippage or blistering. And also you can just have external forces like heat, sort of cause changes to the body. So oftentimes when the body's decomposed enough, the body is not recognizable.
Okay. Is there a time frame that you can place on how quickly a body decomposes?
We can give rough estimates based on several factors, and temperature also plays a role. So if a person is out in the heat, they will decompose faster than if they're in a cool environment. If the person is locked in a tight house that has no access to flies, you may not see insect activity, but if they're outside or have where flies can be attracted and lay eggs, that will also help to determine the cause of death once we know how far along the stages of the fly larvae are.
All right. So this body, Ms. Shepard, you described as being decomposed. When I use the term rigor mortis, what does that mean?
When a person has rigor mortis, their arms and legs are stiff. You can't bend the knees, you can't bend the elbows. If it's full, you can't open the jaw. As early on you can, but after several hours you can't. And then it peaks around 12 hours at normal room temperature, and then it fades away. And usually by 24 to 36 hours it's gone.
All right. Did you make any observation about rigor mortis in this case?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
There was none.
Okay. And what did that mean to you in terms of when you saw the decomposition of the body and you didn't see the presence of rigor mortis? What did that mean to you?
Well, I knew then it's probably at least over a day, probably more, but at least a day.
Okay. And then you mentioned insect activity. How does that play in terms of trying to pinpoint when someone died?
Well, once the fly finds the body, lays eggs, it depends on the species of fly. I'm not an expert at fly species, but I do know that some flies lay live larvae. Some flies lay eggs. If they lay eggs, it takes 24 hours or so for the eggs to hatch. So that adds. So if you see eggs and nothing else, it's probably less than 24 hours from the fly laying those eggs. But once they hatch, the larvae, and common term for that is maggots, but the larvae will grow until they get to a certain size, and then they go off to the side of the body and they form a pupa, a casing around it. And it's like a cocoon that the butterfly, a caterpillar. So it forms a cocoon. And we know if we see that, you're probably at least 7 days, maybe 10 days out. I mean, it depends on the species of fly. So if you see fly larvae with no pupa cases, that means it's probably less than 7 days, but it could be a little bit further out.
Okay. Did you see pupa casings, and that's P-U-P-A, did you see any pupa casings in this examination, this autopsy?
No.
Okay. Based on, did you see fly larvae?
Yes.
Okay. And based on the fly larvae and the lack of pupa casings, could you give an estimate as to when Ms. Shepard died?
I would say that because the larvae, there were some fairly large ones, so they had a chance to grow. So, it's probably 3 days to 7 days in that ballpark.
All right. I want to show you some photographs. As we go through them, if you could just kind of explain the significance to Judge Carbola, we talked about the body being decomposed. Is that, what are we seeing?
Ms. Hunter, can you get rid of the red circle, please?
Oh, yes, of course. All right, what are we seeing in C1?
What's that?
Is there a picture on your screen in front of you, sir?
Yes.
Okay, what are we seeing in this photograph?
Well, this is a body that appears to be a woman, but you can never be certain. It's just because of the long hair. But the abdomen and the face is, you can see the skin is sort of, the outer layers have sloughed off, and you also have probably some gas bloating of the stomach and the face.
Is all those, the bloating, all that consistent with decomposition?
Yes.
All right. And then when it showed you C2, what are we seeing in this photograph, sir?
This is advanced decomposition because I can see the tendons of her hand.
All right. Now, during your examination, did you find any evidence of gunshots that the victim sustained?
Yes, even before I look at the body's x-ray.
Okay.
So we do full body x-rays.
All right. And if you have to refer to your report, that's fine, but do you recall how many gunshots you observed that struck Ms. Shepard in this case?
There were 4 gunshots. I don't think all of, I think maybe 3 of them still had bullets associated with them.
Okay. And we'll go through those. Were there any in the torso region?
Yes, there's, when you show the abdomen, there's bullets that show up, at least 2 of them in the abdomen.
All right. And do we see any, in this photograph C3, what are we looking at here, this x-ray?
I don't see any bullets in this picture.
What about in this one?
This is a, can I circle it?
Yes.
There's a bullet on the left. It says you're facing the body. So, and I know that because there's an L on the right edge of this. So there's a bullet, which is, those are radiodense, showing up on the right side of her abdomen.
Okay. And then what about, do you see any in C5?
It's the same bullet. It's just, this x-ray just happens to be more, the purpose is to look at the arm and elbow region.
All right. What about C6 and C7? What are we seeing here?
Those are both the same bullet. They're just different views. The bullet here is in the pelvis, and I know that because I did the autopsy too. This is the top of the hip bone, called the iliac crest. So it's on the left side, and that was a projectile I took out. I actually took out the hip bone.
Now these 2 bullets in the abdomen that we just saw in the photographs, were those, would you describe those as potentially fatal or fatal wounds?
Yes.
And why is that?
Well, both bullets, I tracked the pathway from, I found the entrances, and I tracked the pathway. I can't tell you exactly if one was worse than the other because they both went through important organs that can bleed. The one that we're looking at now went through the small intestine. That news would cause death right away, but it went through the mesentery. The mesentery is basically the part of the body that carries the blood from the aorta to the intestine. So if you hit the mesentery, you bleed. The other bullet did 2 things. It went through the stomach and the diaphragm, but also went through the left lung, and that would cause bleeding, but also cause the lung to collapse. So after that happens, she basically is functioning on just one lung.
and I know you described these as fatal, but if someone got immediate medical attention after being shot in these places, could someone survive if they got immediate medical attention?
Probably, and I only say that because I rarely see mesentery shots and lung shots by themselves cause death. They can, but it's rare, because if they get medical attention, they'll put a chest tube to re-expand that lung, and if it's bleeding a lot, they'll go in, the surgeons will go in and fix it.
All right. So, but in these cases, they were fatal because there was no medical attention, is that fair to say?
Probably, yes.
All right. Now, did you find any other, you said there were 4 shots earlier, where were the other 2 shots?
Well, one of them went into the right forearm, and hit the right ulna. That's one of the forearm, bones in the forearm. So, here's the fracture.
Showing C9.
Yeah, here's the forearm, and this is the right forearm, and that bone, there's a jagged edge to it, that's a fracture. And because it went through the bone, it fragmented the bullet and kept it inside the forearm. So I was able to recover those fragments.
All right. And then, what
Can I ask
about?
a quick question on that?
Yes.
Would that be consistent with that? Or not? Or do you know?
It's consistent with, but I don't know what position the body was in. So you can,
can't tell.
I can't tell. I could say that was the absolute certain way it was, the arm was positioned.
And I did have a follow-up question to that. Is that, given where that injury is though, I know you said you couldn't say where the body was standing, was that consistent with someone holding a firearm if they were shot that way? If you could say.
In the cases in which I know for sure that they're holding a firearm, it usually goes along the length. I don't know how, I can only use my arm. If you put your arm out like you're holding a gun or like this, it goes in, if someone's firing back, it goes in the hand or in the forearm and trails up the arm. I suppose, if the person was shot, it was turning to get away, and they're still holding for, that arm could be in any position, so I can't say one way or another.
Right.
But this is consistent with, or not consistent with holding a firearm.
But you did just give the description that in cases where you know someone's holding a firearm, this photograph of the right forearm is not, doesn't actually move it.
Judge, this is bleeding.
Oh, sustained, can rephrase.
He's answered the question.
But this is a sophisticated medical witness, though. So,
Judge,
I've sustained ejection of asked Mr. Lacombe to rephrase.
You kind of already gave this description, but how do you compare this injury to injuries cases where you know someone's holding a firearm?
Well, the cases where someone's holding a firearm, the most common I see is someone points a weapon at a police officer, and the police officer shoots them. When that happens, usually if it hits the arm, it's going in the distal end of the arm or the hand and trails upwards. But the angle can be different, so there are things I would say are consistent with. This one, I want to say I can't tell.
All right. Okay. And then, lastly, you have, what's C8? What are we observing in this photograph, sir?
This is, there's fragments in the knee, which is down here. No bleeding. The other things are metal objects that are probably on the pants. With the fragments, there was a gunshot wound to the knee. There was an entrance and an exit, but it hit the bone and fragmented.
All right. Do you have an opinion about the manner of death in this, or let's start with the cause of death. Do you have an opinion about the cause of death?
Yes.
What was that?
Let me read it straight from our report so I don't mess it up. The cause of death is gunshot wounds, parentheses 2, of torso, with perforation of lung and mesentery.
And what about the manner of death?
I ruled it a homicide.
I don't have any other questions.
Fletcher, cross-examination?
Thank you, Judge. Doctor, you indicated on each of the shots, the wounds, you tracked the pathway. Would it be correct to say that the pathway was from a lower entrance wound and then the bullet went upwards?
Yes.
Okay. And then with respect to the right forearm, you're an expert witness, right? You've testified hundreds of times in court.
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you a hypothetical. If I point a shotgun at you and you start shooting me in response to that, if I go like this after you've shot me 3 times, could that bullet that hits here then travel this way, up the forearm?
Yes.
So it could go in at the bottom of the forearm, so to speak, and then up towards the wrist.
Yes.
And is that the direction that this bullet went?
Well, this, in the forearm is a very short track. And,
Okay.
you know, when I describe the direction, I do it as if the body's in a standard position.
With the arms down?
Forearms are down and the
Okay.
hands are forward.
Okay.
Okay. But it appears it went from above to below. And
So let me stop you. From above, meaning higher up on the arm, to below.
yes,
Okay, so if the person was holding a shotgun and was reacting to being shot and her arms went back like this, it would be from here this way,
yeah, but the problem
from
with that,
below to up.
the problem with that is the entrance is 7.5 inches below the elbow. That's close to the wrist. And even the x-rays you can see here,
Okay.
fragments are near the wrist.
Okay, so then it went up higher on the lower part and then moved this way, towards the wrist.
Yes,
Okay, so I was starting down below, but it's the same effect if it starts here and goes this way, right?
yes,
If the person is holding the shotgun up in the air like this.
yes.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Reader?
I did have one more question. Given the decomposition of the body, was there stippling sometimes something that you look at? Given the decomposition of the body, was that something you would have been able to find in the circumstance one way or the other?
There was no stippling and there's no soot. Those are the 2 things we look for range of fire, and that usually puts the weapon within 18 inches of the entrance. However, there's 2 problems. She's decomposed, which may obscure things. She's also wearing clothing. So the shots to her torso, there's cloth between the gunpowder and the skin.
I don't have any other questions.
Can you follow up on that, because that was really not within the scope of cross, so I'll let you ask if you have anything on that.
Judge, just so I'm clear, there's just no evidence of stippling, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's all.
Sorry, I meant to ask.
That's why I didn't, but it's
That's
not
fine.
cross. Okay, thank you, doctor, you may step down, thank you for your time and testimony. Mr. O'Connor, next witness.
Yeah, I would call Miss Shavonna Adams next.
Okay.
Raise your right hand for me. Yes. You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you.
that microphone, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Ma'am, could you please introduce yourself to the court
Shalonda Adams,
and where do you currently work?
Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in the latent print unit
And how long have you worked in the latent print unit?
for about 3 years now.
And could you explain to the court what does the latent print unit do?
We process latent prints, we process evidence and write reports.
And could you explain your training experience to become a latent print examiner?
Yes, I was a latent print examiner trainee for about a year. We take a lot of multiple training online courses and classes. And previously, before I became a latent print examiner, I was a fingerprint technician with identification unit for 15 years.
All right. And have you ever testified in court before?
Yes, I have.
What is meant by the term latent print?
It's a chance impression.
Okay. And when you say chance impression, what do you mean by chance? You kind of just-
That is a chance that you can leave your fingerprints on an item.
All right. Now, just to be clear, chance means you may or may not leave a fingerprint on an item.
Correct.
And what are some of the factors that may play into that?
Factors would be like the condition of the item, the condition of a person's hands, like secretion of your hands and your palms.
Okay. If there's more secretion, would that be more likely to get a print or less likely to get a print?
Probably less likely to get a print.
All right. Are latent prints uniquely identifiable to individuals?
Yes, it is.
Now, were you asked in case, let's see. This is here, 2023 402088, were you asked to look for the presence of latent prints on some firearms?
Yes, sir.
And was one of those firearms a Mossberg 500 shotgun?
Yes.
And were you able to find any latent prints?
No.
And in your experience with latent prints, does time play a factor in that? Meaning, if someone were to touch an item more recently, like today, would you be more likely to find prints as opposed to somebody touched it 2 weeks ago? Or,
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Okay, question. Would that depend on where the item was kept?
Yes.
In
It depends
other
on
words,
the
if I
control
touch
environment.
something and put a print on it, and I put it away, and this is just complete hypothetical, I put it away into a pristine dust-free closet, would that be, in other words, that would be preserved no matter how long it's kept?
Yes, it just depends on the environment that the fingerprint is kept in.
Okay, so,
Because it's water, the fingerprint itself is water-based. So just like if it was kept outside, the heat will absorb it, the fingerprint, which is, if it's kept indoors in an AC environment, a controlled environment, then the print will be more able to be read.
okay, so when you say that time would affect it, it also depends on where that item
Where the item is kept.
stored,
Stored, yes.
and how it's handled,
Yes.
et cetera. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Questions based on that?
No, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
I'm sorry, was he finished?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, if I touch a shotgun with my fingers, and then I put it into an air-conditioned house, and 6 or 7 days goes by, and then when did you examine the firearm, that shotgun?
I checked it out on August 1st, 2023. And then was shut back in to the property room the very next day.
Okay, so if the gun was recovered from a crime scene on July 6th, and the alleged shooting or the touching of that firearm was on June 29th or June 30th, that's 6 or 7 days that have gone by. And then when did you check it out? You checked it out
On August 1st.
on August 1st, so that's almost a month, right? So it could have, that fingerprint, to the extent that it's water-based, could have evaporated long ago, right?
Correct.
And how many guns did you examine in this case?
4.
And none of them had fingerprints, right?
Correct.
That's all I had.
Okay. Mr. LaConroe, may Ms. Adams be excused from her subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, thank you for your time and testimony. Mr. LaConroe, may I quit?
State would call Detective Saunders. He's the last witness. He's the lead detective.
Are you gonna have photographs in this one?
I don't know that I need to show them. I think I've shown all of them through the other witnesses, so I would move to admit all of them. At this point, it states composite A, B, and C.
Yes, stage one?
It states 1, 2, and 3.
Okay,
respectively.
1, 2, 3, Mr. Fletcher, any objection?
No, sir.
Tell me admitted.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
And you, sir. Snap it.
Good, thank you. Just have a seat there and just put your chair close up to the mic, speak right in the microphone, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I may have some pictures I need to show, Your Honor, actually, but I'll do that at the end.
Okay.
So, Detective Saunders, if you could please introduce yourself to the court, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Howard Saunders. Saunders is spelled Saunders.
And where are you assigned at Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, sir?
I'm presently assigned to the homicide unit, sir.
All right. How long have you been assigned to the homicide unit?
About 3.5 years.
Okay. And I wanted to direct your attention to July 5th, 2023, were you assigned to be the lead detective on a reported homicide that occurred at 5321 Colonial Avenue in Duval County?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. And was the victim in that case Heather Shepard?
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to first talk to you about what information did you have up to that point when you arrived on the scene about Ms. Shepard?
When we first arrived on scene, we learned that some missing persons detectives had responded in follow-up to a missing persons report. And when they arrived, they found what appeared to be a deceased person, and they had detained the other occupant of the home, Ms. McCarthy.
All right. And did you have access to reports, and were you able to verify that there had been a missing report for a few days?
Yes, sir.
For Ms. Shepard?
Yes.
And were you able to determine that there were a few efforts by police since July 1st to visit the home?
Yes, sir.
And there was some contact made with the defendant during those previous days?
Yes, sir.
And did you have any information up to this point that the defendant had acted, that Ms. McCarthy had acted in self-defense and shot Ms. Shepard?
No, sir, I have no information about that.
All right, okay. So you get to the scene, and did you conduct a search yourself did you participate in the search of the residence?
Yes, sir. Once we got a search warrant for the residence, yes.
And did you notate anything about how it smelled when you got there?
Yes, there was a very strong foul odor that I could smell from the street pretty much as soon as I got out of the car.
And given that you're a homicide detective, have you been around scenes of death before?
Many.
And have you smelled bodies that are dead, sir?
Yes, sir. I immediately recognized the odor as human decomposition.
All right. And did you enter the front porch area?
I did.
And concerning the front porch area of the home, what did you notate? We've already seen some pictures, but I'm not going to go over that in great detail because the judge is familiar with it. But was there anything about the porch that you remembered in terms of how the body was found?
Sure. The bags, there was a garbage bag that had two large, they were melted, but they were large ice packs, the kind that come in like the food shipping companies like HelloFresh or some of the other ones. There was just like, I believe like a shower curtain nearby and like a sheet or something like that.
Do you remember there being fans?
Yes, there was a fan, an oscillating fan that was on outside of the porch, and another smaller oscillating fan that was very near the victim, but inside the front porch. Both were on and running.
Okay. And then, did you search inside the home as well?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you see any blood on the couch that was in the living room? Did you find any blood there?
No, sir.
Okay. And then there was like a couch on the porch, correct? If you remember?
Yes, sir, I believe so. I believe it was cloth.
Okay. Did you see any blood on the couch?
No, sir.
All right. Now, did you find, were any firearms found in the residence?
Yes, sir, there were.
Okay. How many were found total?
5.
All right. And was there a Mossberg shotgun that was found?
There was.
Where was that found?
It was leaned up against a wall in the kitchen, like if you walk in through the back door, there's like a small entry, like on a laundry room area, and then it leads into the kitchen. It was just on the other side of a kitchen counter against the wall.
Did you see any blood on that firearm, sir?
I did not. There was actually a rag that was over the muzzle. The muzzle was at the top, instead of sitting on the butt end of the gun, and on the muzzle was a rag that was hanging over the muzzle of the gun.
All right. Was that anywhere near the couch?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you see any signs of like a physical struggle with inside the home?
I did not.
Was there any blood splatter in the home found?
Yes, there was a small amount of blood on the wall of the kitchen.
Okay. Was that near the couch?
No.
Did you find any cleaning supplies in the home?
There was some cleaning supplies, yes, sir.
During your investigation, did you determine whether the defendant, Ms. McCarthy, had made any purchases of any cleaning items?
Yes, sir.
And when were those purchased?
On July 1st.
Okay. Did you recall what those items were?
There was a variety. I believe she got bleach, some Arm & Hammer, like training pads that you get for like a puppy, some mothballs, I believe odor eliminator, some sponges, maybe moisture eliminator.
All right. And up until July 5th, you never, there were never any calls for service from Colonial Avenue for saying that somebody had shot somebody. And let me ask this way. Did you find any records of the defendant calling the police to report that she shot someone in self-defense?
Yes, sir, I did not.
And did you find any evidence of any 911 calls for service to assist a person who had been shot in the home?
At 5321 Colonial, sir?
Yes.
I did not.
Now, Ms. McCarthy, did you interview her?
I did.
Okay. And did you read her Miranda rights?
Yes, sir.
And did Ms. McCarthy make any statements to you during your entire interview that she shot Ms. Shepard in self-defense?
No, sir, she did not.
Okay. What was her reaction to strike that? Did you have to tell her that Ms. Shepard was the person underneath the blanket?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what did she say when you told her that?
She acted very shocked and surprised.
Do you recall asking the defendant during your interview when she last saw Ms. Shepard?
Yes, sir.
And what did she tell you?
I believe she said it was the 30th when she last seen her.
Did she tell you what she thought happened to Miss Shepard if she hadn't seen her since the 30th? Did she give you an explanation of that?
She said that Miss Shepard and her younger sister, that they had just kind of wandered off, and it was something that she had done before. They just kind of walk off and be using drugs or drinking or something like that.
Right. Did she seem concerned by that when you were talking to her?
No.
Did she say anything to you about the porch itself that, or what did she tell you about the condition of the porch itself when you asked her?
I asked specifically about the path that led from the screened door to the front porch, and when the last time she could walk unimpeded from door to door. And she said that it was unimpeded up until the Saturday previous, which I believe was July 1st, which is when she said she started making the pile of garbage. She was cleaning things out.
And she did not tell you that she noticed anyone deceased on the porch when she was making this pile of garbage?
No, sir.
Did you ask her about the odor that you previously talked about?
I did.
What did she tell you?
She attributed the odor to a bucket of rotting meat.
Yeah, now was there a bucket of rotting meat found somewhere on the premises?
Yes, there was.
Where was that found?
It's kind of in the side yard over near, like the privacy fence is kind of behind, like a plant.
Did she say anything why there were fans and a candle or on the front porch? Like, did she give you an explanation for that?
I don't recall if I asked specifically about that, sir.
Is there anything else as you sit here today that she told you that sticks out in your mind?
She said a lot of things in our interview. I just recall that she seemed very shocked and surprised that it was Heather that was found on the front porch.
All right. And she never told you that she shot Miss Shepard or acted in self-defense?
No, sir.
Did she ever tell you that Miss Shepard was holding a shotgun?
No, sir.
Speaking of guns, did the defendant admit to owning any firearms?
Yes, sir.
What did she tell you concerning firearms?
She said that she had multiple guns throughout the home.
Did she say whether Miss Shepard had any guns?
No, I don't believe that she did.
Okay. So all the firearms that were found at the home, did she say those belonged to her, meaning the defendant, to your knowledge?
Yes, sir, that was my understanding.
All right. Now, during your interview, did you ask her about a previous incident that occurred of domestic violence incident in
Yes, sir.
January?
Yes, sir.
Did you also ask her about some text messages or some threats that were sent
Yes, sir.
from the defendant to Ms. Shepard in this case?
Yes, sir, I did.
And I'm going to show you what's called a State's Exhibit D for identification. You can please look at these and see if you can recognize these, sir. And it's a series of 4 messages. And do you identify these, sir?
Yes, these are the printouts of messages that were sent from the defendant to Ms. Shepard.
And were these sent back on around February 5th?
Yes, sir.
And you were able to, during your investigation, before your interview, you were able to find that police report, is that correct?
I believe I found this kind of in the middle of the interview. We initiated an interview and I took a break, and then that's when I found that this incident occurred, and I went back and asked her about it, but it was during the course of the interview, yes, sir.
And did the defendant admit to sending those messages?
Yes, sir, she did.
And if you could, they're kind of lengthy, so, but that will be in evidence for the court to review later. Could you just give the court a general sense of what the messages were about?
Sure. The first one on top is, you better hope you're all F and then a bunch of stars. Families and protective F, bunch of stars. Services, okay, like I'm going to F, bunch of stars. Kill all of you, I'm gonna go to Alabama and kill the rest of your mother, F, bunch of stars. Pieces of S, bunch of stars. Because y'all need to quit F, bunch of stars. Your F, bunch of stars. Family and have all these F, bunch of stars. Retards as F, bunch of stars. Family members. So I hope you guys all burn in F, bunch of stars. Hell, where you belong. Well, I guess you don't like anyone in your family. F, stars. C, stars. I hope you can live with the fact that you got them all F, stars. Good luck in your next life. B, stars. Because you ain't getting a F, stars next time with me. I hope you F, stars, die. 1-904-627-5185. Deposit a new message. I hope you know what fucking death smells like. Click here, 13608424005 to listen to full voice message.
Okay. And you know, the rest of them are similar tenor, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So, speaking of the subject of phones, were you able to find the victim's phone inside the residence? Were you able to find a phone from Ms. Shepard?
No, sir, I was not.
But in your investigation, you were aware that she had a phone and somebody was using it as far back as the 29th, is that correct?
Yes, I believe the 29th is when a text message was sent to Mr. McCree.
All right. I do want to just show a few pictures at this time that I didn't touch on. So, if you want to just look away for just 1 second.
May I get a, Mr. McCondro, after this hearing, I would like a separate disc. I know you've introduced them into evidence, the photographs, but I would like a separate disc for a court copy.
Sure, so I was going to put them all on a flash drive, and they're all on a flash drive, and just admit that into evidence, but I can, if you,
That's fine, but I also need an extra one for the court, because what I don't want to do, if you don't mind, Mr. Fletcher, I don't want to check the clerk's copy yet.
oh, sure,
I would like my own copy so I can have it
sure.
while I'm writing this work.
Then I can, when we're finished, I will go make another copy for you and bring it back, that's okay?
Just put it on a flash drive, or a disc, but the disc cannot be a Blu-ray, because I can't open it.
All right, I'll probably have to put it on another flash drive, because
That's fine.
I'll try to put it all in one place rather than 3 separate discs, if that's okay?
No, that's, a flash drive is perfect. All I'm just telling you is, I would like a separate court, judge copy, simply because I don't want to take the clerk's copy out of the record. And the second thing is that it's got to be either on a flash drive or a disc, and it's not Blu-ray.
Okay.
You're all right with that, Mr. Fletcher?
Yes, Judge.
Just an exact duplicate of what was introduced in it?
Yes, Judge.
I don't like to have to check out the clerk's copy.
No, I understand. All right. So, we're looking at states 21, Tim Saunders, do you see that?
Yes, sir.
What are we looking at here?
So this is in the kitchen. Kind of the, like what you're looking at between that doorway is, that's the hallway. If you're proceeding the hallway and turn right, that leads back to some bedrooms. And if you were to turn left, that's where the living room is that would ultimately lead out towards the front porch.
Okay.
Behind you is the back door where you come in through the backyard.
Okay. And there was were there any supplies or cleaning supplies found in the kitchen, as you recall?
I believe there was some, as you can see, there's a blue bucket right there on the counter.
Now, what are we looking at in states 22?
So this is the hallway. Those doors at the end there are, those lead to bedrooms. The blue material on the ground, as that you see, that's a positive reaction to luminol. We process the scene at night in darkness, and luminol is it's a liquid that's used, and when it's sprayed, it creates a bright blue reaction that can indicate the presence of blood.
Okay. But that was, this area of the home is not near the couch, is that correct?
Correct, it's not.
And the presence of blood, it doesn't tell you like how much blood was there or anything like that, it seems to make that could be blood, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a visual representation of it. It doesn't, I mean, it's obviously doesn't give you the quantity, but you can kind of see on the wall on the left side, there is some kind of like a, I mean, I'm not a blood spatter expert, but I would say, you know, like a drag mark or something where you can see that it's been kind of smeared all over the ground.
And then, same here, looking at AT, what are we looking at this?
So this is the living room. So the couch for the home would be just to the left. It's not depicted in this photo, it's just to the left. In the foreground, if you were to look through the doorway, that's kind of the original entryway before the front porch was added on. But the front door to the residence is just to the right through that doorway from the viewer.
And then what are we looking at here?
That's the same thing, just through different lighting.
And then 820.
And this is that same area that's processed with the luminol that I was mentioning previously that would show the presence of blood.
Going back, and I'm gonna have to, people are gonna work their eyes on the back, right? We're going to A11, so is that the couch you explained?
Yes, sir?
And there was no blood found on the couch, correct?
No, sir.
Or the black chair that's sitting there, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct now, the black chair.
And then one of the firearms that you collected, you submitted for were you able to find the firearm that was actually the murder weapon in this case?
Yes, sir.
And you were able to make a match to the shell casings, is that correct?
It was matched with projectiles.
All right. And then you were able to get DNA off of that gun that came back to the defendant, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
Give me 1 second, Mr. Butler. That murder weapon, what was it? Can you tell me what kind of weapon that was?
Yes, ma'am. It was a Springfield XD's .45 caliber.
Revolver or?
It was a semi-automatic.
Semi-automatic. You didn't find any of the sharpies?
No, no.
Okay. And did you say something about DNA?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say? I missed it.
Sure. DNA from the firearm, we swabbed the firearm for DNA, and FDLE compared it and did find Ms. McCarthy's DNA on that firearm.
Did you spray water or shotgun in the house?
We did.
Was that swabbed for DNA?
I don't recall if it was swab or DNA. I know no latent prints came back on it.
Okay. All right, questions based on that?
No, Judge.
Mr. Fletcher, go ahead, prosecutor.
Thank you. Detective, you talked about you had observed no signs of a physical struggle, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And let's say that Mr. LaCondra and I, and you watch this, we have a fist fight right up here, okay? And each of us falls to the ground, we roll around, we have a big fight, right?
Sure.
And then we get up and we leave, right? And 7 days later, would you expect to see signs of a physical struggle?
I mean, I would have follow-up questions. That would, did any of you suffer any injuries, or either of you bleeding from the fight?
No.
Okay. There would be no bleeding or clothes ripped off or anything like that. It was just simply exchange of blows. Then no, not.
Okay. And two people can have a physical struggle and not leave those things, right?
Not like what things?
Anything you just mentioned, blood, anything, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the fact that you didn't see signs of a physical struggle just means that you didn't see anything, right?
It means that I didn't see signs of a physical struggle.
Okay, okay. it doesn't mean that a physical struggle didn't occur, right?
It means that I didn't see signs of a physical
Okay.
struggle.
All right, fair enough. And not finding blood on a couch, if I'm shot 4 times and as I'm falling back onto a couch and none of the shots go through me and I get back up, would you necessarily have to see blood on the couch?
I would expect to find blood on the couch.
Well, if the bullets stayed inside the body
Yes.
and they're on the front and I fall like this and then I get back up, there's going to be blood behind me?
There can be.
But not necessarily, right? If the bullet doesn't go through me and I get shot right here, right in my chest,
Yes.
is there going to be blood behind me on the table I'm sitting on?
It can be. I've seen it plenty of times.
Okay. The threatening text messages, how many months was that before the disappearance at the end of June or early July?
So the text messages were sent on February 5th, and she was found on July 5th, so 5 months.
About 5 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So no threatening text messages the day before, a week before, 2 weeks before?
None that I recovered. These are the text messages that were reported to us.
Okay. And you know that at the time, Ms. Shepard was staying with Ms. McCarthy, right? At her house?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have, Judge.
Was there any blood found in front of the couch, or, did they have to live there in the back of the horse that you were found?
So that one of the photos where we had a positive blood reaction, you can actually see that area in this photo. It's kind of to the right above where it says filed in evidence. You see a cord running across the ground. That area did produce a positive reaction for luminol, for blood and luminol.
Okay, can you circle that thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
this whole walkway kind of produced that bright blue reaction when tested.
All right, but there wasn't visible blood?
Yeah, ma'am.
So, based on your training and experience, would you say that it had been clean?
Yes, if
If there was blood?
yes, if there was blood that and the luminol reaction would indicate that there was blood there, it would be cleaned, and that is one of the reasons that we use luminol, is it can still create that reaction based on the proteins and everything else found in the blood.
Okay. Questions based on that?
No.
Questions based on that? Okay, can Detective Saunders be excused?
Yes.
All right, Detective, thank you for your time and testimony. You're excused. Please do not discuss the testimony of any persons other than the lawyers if you wish to.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Connor, any other witnesses?
There are just arguments.
Mr. Fletcher, witnesses?
No, Judge.
Okay.
You want these text messages that I gave you?
Okay, on your argument, state that the burden on first and last.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let me ask you a question. You got copies of the case law that Mr. O'Connor has sent?
They're on my phone and my email. I got them on the way, so I haven't
Okay,
had a
well, you
chance.
can take a look at those. So I noticed that several were pre-amendment change.
Right.
If you were cited, what do you want me to take from this?
Well, I still want you to take that that you can consider the fact that when looking at self-defense, many factors that did not occur here. She did not immediately call the police. She at no time told any of the people that were checking on Ms. Shepard's whereabouts of her own family members. She never said anything about, Heather had a gun and I shot her and I was acting in self-defense. That up until the filing of this motion, she has the right to remain silent, but at least her behavior when this occurred was not consistent with someone that would act in self-defense. Typically, not always, but it is a factor to consider that she didn't call 911. She didn't immediately report this. So I think so I want you to take that from those cases, as well as the myriad of different explanations she provided to family members as to what happened to Ms. Shepard as well as to the police. There was never really a consistent story as to what happened. And then thirdly, the fact that you can certainly see efforts to clean the scene. That would also not be consistent and to hide what occurred, and to repeatedly lie to people about what was going on, and to act surprised that the body was there. That certainly isn't consistent with self-defense. I find it unfathomable that she didn't realize that. Well, at the time this interview occurred, it seemed unfathomable that she had no idea that Ms. Shepard was sitting there, on her front porch below a bunch of blankets. Because that was the original story, I don't know what happened. So that's what I want the court to take from those cases, is that while yes, the standard has changed in terms of what the state has to prove in order to overcome this, it's still clear convincing, but all of those factors can be considered. So
the fact that the amendment, that the standing your ground, the burden has shifted from the defense to the state, those cases are still factually relevant.
yes, in terms of the analytical exercise the court has to engage in, those are all relevant factors, and I think they're highly important for the reasons I just said. So you've got, just to recap, different stories, the behavior, the efforts to clean, not letting somebody in the front door when she knew what was there, and at no time ever stated anything about Heather Shepard trying to, had a gun and supposedly threatened her. I'd also point out that.
What do you make of the, what do you make of the, or what do you want the court to take from the fact that there seems to be a garbage bag with melting ice packs placed?
So the only thing that I can take from that is that when you recall Detective Fallsgraff's testimony, he did say that medical examiner Fallsgraff, Dr. Fallsgraff, he did say that ice or being in a cold environment can somehow slow down decomposition. I don't know why else someone would put ice there. It's hard for me to put my mind in someone who would do this, but that may have been some effort in her mind to prevent decomposition, or maybe to prevent the smell. That's the only thing I can think of, that why she would put ice packs there. I don't believe that it was some immediate effort to help her, because if there was an effort to help, one of the questions I asked earlier was, to Dr. Fallsgraff, if she got immediate medical attention, could she have survived? He said, yes, probably. So she didn't call police up. There are some cases where people have shot someone in self-defense and then called somebody, particularly if it's someone you loved or purportedly loved. It's like, oh, we got this argument, but they're subdued, they're no longer a threat. Please help them. She didn't do that. So I would like the court to take that. I think this was some effort to somehow prevent a smell or preserve the body. I don't know, but I don't think it was in any effort to try to help Ms. Shepard.
Okay.
And as far as Dr. Fallsgraff's testimony, there is the evidence that he said, there's no way to know exactly from an anatomical position what position Ms. Shepard's body was in when she was shot, but he did say, at least in other cases where he's had instances of people who he knew were holding a firearm, that the injury that she suffered on her right hand was not consistent with other cases where he's had someone holding a firearm. It doesn't mean, and I'm not trying to oversell this. So
Judge, I would object to that. I don't think that's what he said.
I remember what you said.
I'm not trying to oversell this in the court heard his testimony. But the point is that I don't think it would support their theory of what occurred. And it also, just even in the motion, I would say it seems odd to me the way it was written. Again, I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but that Ms. Shepard was outside with a firearm, reportedly, waving it around, and then Ms. McCarthy, I couldn't tell if she already had it. She had a gun already holstered on her, or she already was walking around with a holstered gun, or she grabbed one. But it made it seem that she was with a holstered gun at the time, but that she would allow her back in the room.
None of that is evident before me, right? I mean, it's the allegations that made the prima facie case shifted the burden to you. But I mean, none of it's evidence in front of you, is it?
Well, it's not evidence, but I have a duty to refute what they're saying, and it just, from a common sense standpoint, that doesn't seem to jive. And it also doesn't make sense if that happened outside the house, and then she's able to get entry back into the house, and then this unfolded, and then she shot her on the couch. There's no blood on the couch either. So, from just their explanation of what occurred in the motion, I think that the evidence, to the best the state can provide, or anybody can provide, it doesn't support that, their theory of what occurred. Also, I think it is worth noting that her daughter testified that my mom doesn't like guns, she hates them, she's never touched one to my knowledge, she doesn't get around them. So it would be unusual behavior for her to have grabbed a gun. It's not consistent with her previous behavior, the people that know her. I think Mr. McCree also testified to that fact. Another point I would make is, while I recognize that the domestic battery occurred 6 months ago, we did have a Williams Rule hearing, which the defense actually acquiesced or agreed that it was admissible evidence. So the fact that you have a situation where the defendant had previously been aggressive towards the victim, beating her pretty bad, the court saw those pictures, we'll have an opportunity to see those again, that isn't consistent with Ms. Shepard now attacking her. Also, you have the threats, and I know they happened 5 months before, but it is pretty vivid of her saying, I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to have you smell death, which is really an odd thing to say, when here you have 5 months later a scenario where you've killed someone and you've left them on a porch to essentially rot and decompose, and the smell is so powerful that David Saunders can smell it from across the street. I do think that maybe, and I would argue this to a jury, but I think it does belie some evidence of someone's envisioned doing this before. So, all those reasons, Your Honor, I think the state's shown through clear convincing evidence that this is not self-defense and it should go to a jury. That's not to say that she can't argue it in front of a jury, but this doesn't meet the requisite for stage your ground. For you to find a stage your ground, you have to basically say that you have to basically ignore the evidence put together and take that none of this evidence could in any way refute what the defendant's allegation is. And basically, I would argue that to deny this motion anytime, or I'm sorry, to grant the state's motion, to grant the defense's motion, it would almost be virtually impossible for any time you have a situation where there's two people and there's no witnesses, that someone, if they raise state your ground, there'd be no way ever to refute. Here, we have evidence that does not support the defendant's motion. It refutes it. And again, that's what I don't go through the cases, each one of them, unless you want me to.
I do not.
But I didn't think you did. You're
Right,
right, you can read them, but that's basically what I think these cases stand for, is that you can consider all these factors, including the defendant's behavior before, the prior acts of aggression, and the defendant's behavior after. All those are things that you can consider. And from the best of our ability, from a scientific standpoint, there's nothing to support that. I recognize that the fingerprints, you can touch an item, and it may or may not leave a fingerprint, but there isn't any evidence to support that she was holding the gun, because there are no fingerprints to that effect. And the gun was found in the house. It was not found outside in an air-conditioned environment.
Okay,
So,
all right. I think I understand the state's position. Mr. Fletcher?
Thank you, Judge.
So what I want you to ask you is what your view is. So the defendant sets forth a prima facie case in the motion, but presents no evidence at the hearing. Of course, I can understand why. How do I have to consider the facts alleged in the motion?
Judge, that motion creates a prima facie case that she acted in self-defense and is immune from prosecution.
I
It
agree
is-
with that.
it
And the
is-
state agrees with that. That the motion itself establishes the case so as to shift the burden of proof to the state without putting on any evidence to support what.
Correct. And then I'll ask you this. What evidence was presented to the court to rebut what was said in that motion? What was presented to you in terms of testimony that happened the night of or the day of when the shots were fired and the 20 seconds before and the 20 seconds after? Zero evidence. Zero. The state, and the state was up here just a minute ago and they said things like, there's just no way to know. It doesn't jive. Judge, that is not clear and convincing evidence of what happened in those 20, 30, 35 seconds between two people. He's offered no evidence of that. And what I will point out, Judge, surprisingly, he didn't ask about the trajectory or the pathway of the bullets. I asked that on cross-examination, and I know why. Because think about this. The doctor said the bullets strike from a low position and go up. So it goes here and it goes up into the body, goes here and goes up in the pelvis, the knee, and it was consistent with the person holding a shotgun after being shot a couple times, hitting here and moving up. And what does that tell you? Why is that trajectory important? Because she said in the motion, and they stipulated that it creates a prima facie case, that she was on the ground when she did the shooting and the shotgun was being pointed down at her. You can draw inferences about the 5 months before, and you can draw inferences.
The defendant was on the ground.
In the motion, that's what it says. She was knocked to the ground during a struggle over the shotgun.
Okay, and that the bullet, or you're saying the bullet went
She's on the ground,
from in up and traveled upwards?
yes. And that's consistent with what the doctor said on all four shots, So what has, and if that's her assertion in her motion, what has the state shown you today to rebut that? Nothing. They've shown that 5 months before she sent threatening messages and there was a fight between the two of them. That's what they showed you. You can draw inferences from that, Judge, but we're not here to talk about inferences. We're here for them to overcome that motion with competent, substantial evidence about what happened on that day in those 30, 40 seconds. Not inferences that you can draw from post-shooting conduct or prior to the shooting conduct. And that's why this motion should be.
So you're saying that that the state cannot rely on evidence of consciousness of guilt? Hiding the body underneath a bunch of stuff?
Those are inferences that you can draw.
What I'm saying is you said about post-conduct. What I'm asking you is, I hear the state putting that evidence on to show consciousness of guilt. And so, can I consider that as consciousness of guilt?
I would argue, Judge, that after that amendment, where it took, and we got to talk to Ron DeSantis about this maybe, but they made it a whole lot harder for them to prove cases like this. You can draw inferences, but that's not clear and convincing evidence that refutes what's in the motion.
Okay, but we know now circumstantial evidence, the courts have now said circumstantial evidence is just as good as direct evidence, right? There's no more.
Sometimes it is.
There's no more different standard of review for circumstantial evidence than there is direct, right? Used to be you had to exclude every reasonable hypothesis of innocence.
Right.
It's gone away.
Right.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And so direct evidence is circumstantial. So what I'm hearing from the state is this is our circumstantial evidence that it wasn't a self-defense.
Right, except that their own witness establishes my case because of the direction of the bullets. How else? I can't shoot this person standing in front of me and get the bullets to go up into the body unless I'm on the ground. How does that work? And it's the state's job to answer that question, and not only did they not answer it, they avoided it today. They didn't even ask.
I'm going to let you have a rebuttal. You have the burden. Give a rebuttal. Okay.
And Judge, I can just tell the court, I ran across a law review article that talked about how frustrating it must be since the amendment for the state to try to prove a case like this, where two people are in a room by themselves, there's no eyewitnesses. And the article, the author just kind of throws his hands up in the air. That's the statute that the state passed. If he doesn't like it, bring it up to the legislature. But that's what we have here. You have 40 seconds, 30, 40 seconds of things that are happening, and the state wants to prove that it didn't happen that way based on 5 months ago and based on conduct afterwards.
Now, let me ask you a question. As a general rule, you can't use a defendant's silence against them.
Correct.
But when they actually talk to the police and give one version of events that's inconsistent with now the version, that's admissible, right?
I would agree that her statements are admissible, Judge.
Okay, so how do I, or how should I consider her, like, wow, there's a body on my front porch?
Those statements still do not tell you, Judge. You can
Well,
draw
it happens to
inferences.
be my girlfriend.
Those statements still, Judge, do not tell us about the manner and mechanism and how it happened in those 40 seconds, 6 or 7 days before the interview. You still don't get that. And it's their job. The burden has been thrown onto them to show that clear and convincing evidence that she didn't act in self-defense. And my best witness is the medical examiner. And he can't explain that away. Now, he gets a closing argument, but that's all I have to say.
Okay, all right. Mr. O'Connor, rebuttal?
Your Honor, his testimony concerning the medical examiner was that there's no way to tell what the anatomical position of the person was when they were shot. But what he did testify to is, so if he can't tell, then I don't know how that supports what the defense's theory is. I get what he's saying about the direction of the bullets, but that does not mean that that's the way that it happened. It automatically means what the defense is saying. I would, especially when there's no way to tell the position of the person. And again, what he did say was that.
Did he say that the trajectory of the two torso wounds were in and up?
I don't recall him saying that. It's just,
Right, I'll have that transcribed.
right. But
I do know he said that the wrist injury was in and up.
Judge, he said,
Or I guess, or go to the hand, I'm sorry.
Judge, I asked very few questions on the cross, but I asked that question, and the trajectory was in and up.
Like that.
But, yes, but you're going to
When I say like that, what I'm doing is, for the record, is I'm raising my hand up as if I'm trying to ward off something.
right, I mean, you can just as easily than that. Then someone's pointing a gun at you, you're like, you know, he's saying, oh, it had to be this. That's what the defense is saying. It had to be this. I mean, that's, again.
But Judge, they have to prove with
I know,
evidence
I
against that
completely
it wasn't that. That's the problem.
I understand the burden, I really do. I'm just trying to figure out what the medical examiner actually testified regarding. I remember him saying about the wrist being in and up, and toward the hand, I guess.
Right. And he said it wasn't consistent with other times, of other instances where he knew somebody was holding a gun.
And Judge, my notes aren't evidence, but from below moving up, all four.
Right, when he said moving up, was it toward the hand or toward this way, toward the elbow? I can't remember now.
It came in lower and went up.
Went
Up
up
towards the
toward the
wrist,
hand.
in the direction from below towards the wrist.
Okay. Here, I'll pull the transcript, I'll get the transcript from his testimony. But I remember that too, that when he said up, it's kind of, I mean, up typically would be up your arm, but I think the way he said was it went into the wrist and up toward the hand, so as if the hand is
If
up.
the person is holding their hand up like this,
Yes.
whether it's with a shotgun or in defense, I get that part. But like that, that's what he said.
Yeah, okay. All right. So what else would you like to tell me, Mr. O'Connor?
I don't agree with the way the defendant is carried. It's clear and convincing, it's not beyond reasonable doubt. So this idea that we have to exactly refute what the defendant is saying is not the standard. We have to prove clear and convincing evidence that will refute what he's saying. which I think we've done for all the reasons we said.
Okay, I think I understand the first, and I'm gonna have to take a look carefully at the cases that you presented to me, as well as any other recent cases and
Sure.
understand ground. Anything else?
And the last point I would make, Your Honor, is that, just practically speaking, just from common sense standpoint, that firearm is not next to the victim where she's found.
7 days later.
Well, again, that means that she tampered with it, which means usually people that tamper hide evidence. And usually that is, again, conscious of guilt. You can't ignore that in this case.
I don't remember the testimony of the officer. Where was the shotgun?
It's
found?
found, there's a picture of it, it's found in like
In the kitchen.
the kitchen.
In the kitchen, and where was the murder weapon, the homicide weapon?
It was found in her, it was found in one of her rooms. It was found in Miss McCarthy's room. She had like a DJ room or something. I don't know if that testimony came out, but I can tell you it was found in her room.
And right now, it's not a murder weapon, it's a homicide weapon.
Right,
It was the weapon used.
That's correct, Judge.
The victim. So right now,
right.
I just call it a homicide weapon. Now, where was that found?
That was found in, Miss McCarthy had like a room where I guess she was like a DJ off and on, so like her, I use a quote, like an office or something.
All right. Anything else you want to tell me?
No.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you, good job on both sides. I will render a ruling, let's see. How long should I pass this case for?
I mean, however long.
It's 9:17, okay,
9/17?
for the next pre-trial?
Sure.
I'll have a ruling by then.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
I'm gonna do the hearing.
You can just have that flash drive delivered to my office.
Sorry. And I'll also,
Yeah, hey, stop everybody. Did those text messages go on to
I was gonna admit those in states to the dean.
I got it right here.
Okay, any objections? to those?
No, Judge.
All right, there it is.
Good work,
Yeah, thanks.
So I've got the photos, the text messages, and the domestic battery photos, and the ET photos, right?
Right,
All those have been introduced into evidence,
right.
because those are where the lunch matters. Okay, great, thank you. All right, now we're recessed.